Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? It's a lovely Wednesday afternoon. Check it out. After an absolutely freezing morning, it was freezing. The sun's out, it's not raining. It's just a glorious day for what is meant to be sort of winter, but I best not speak too soon because the rain will be back. But anyway, I'll enjoy it while it lasts. I've done a heap of chores. I've been to the gym. I was going to cook a curry tonight, but turns out I'm going to go watch the new Mission Impossible. So I don't have to cook. And I just thought I'd jump online to talk about Bryan Kohberger case for a short while. We're still all waiting for Hitler to make his ruling. Who knows when that's going to be out? He has to rule on the continuance and the third-party perpetrator stuff. The internet was alight this morning for me due to a gentleman who purports to be one of Bryan Kohberger's friends from back in the day. He was on a podcast the podcast is called Birdie, I think. Anyway, I watched it. It was interesting. That's an interesting character. Who knows what's going on there, but I'm sure everybody watched it. And good old Lana from Truth and Transparency, she kept me up until the wee hours of the morning. Honestly, that was a banger, Lana. When you went over Plunder's, I didn't know who Plunder was, but when you went over Plunder's, the footage that she had garnered from Freedom of Information, and that little tidbit that you put in there about, what was it, Axon Officer? The body cam footage channel, perhaps being Fixler. I did ask him on Twitter, but he hasn't responded. So, I'm no one important. He ain't going to respond to me. But that would be interesting. Yeah, that whole thing with the body cam, who knew about it, how long they knew about the DoorDasher. It's all a bit interesting, isn't it? But anyway, it'll all come out in the wash. It always does. Unless you're John O'Keefe, nothing came out in the wash there. Can you believe that man has died? And I don't think, from all I can tell, listening to defense attorneys online, nothing's going to happen. Karen Reid is free and no one else is going to be investigated. That's a travesty. Sort of would have expected law enforcement to look after their fellow law enforcement officers, better than that. But anyway, that's just how it goes, I guess. This week, my mind has it's just kept going back to Hurwitz's monologue. When he was talking about the defence not needing to use a scorched earth strategy when preparing for mitigation of a defendant in a death penalty case. And I just thought, scorched earth strategy, what does that even mean? Well, for starters, it's a military strategy where an opposing force would basically just decimate everything of their enemy so that they wouldn't be able to, recoup anything. You just destroy the food supply, the crops, infrastructure, everything. Scorched earth strategy, total destruction. And I was thinking to myself, well, I don't really see how that lends itself. You're not trying to completely destroy. You're just trying to put your defendant's best foot forward, right? I find the whole way, I'm Australian, so we don't have the death penalty here. So it's quite hard for me to wrap my head around it. But I'm doing it. And I can rationalise the death penalty because I'm just as flawed as anybody else, and I can empathise that if something bad happens to a loved one, you would want to see them, you would want to see their life ended. There's no nicer way of saying it. But in a way, on a philosophical level, that's actually the beginning of the end for us as as humans, because you've opened the door to something that's, you've opened the door for our darkest side to flourish. And it does surprise me that over the years you've held on to this colonial hangover of the death penalty, where you had, mandatory sentences for people who committed treason and theft and murder. You've held on to that. And even though in states it's been done away with and whatnot, the standard, according to Mr. Hurwitz, is objective reasonableness, when in my opinion it should be the evolving standard of decency. And the evolving standard of decency shows that you're pulling away from the idea of state-sanctioned homicide, right? So it's a bit jarring. It's a bit jarring to hear that a defence, for them, reasonableness, you don't have to do your best. You just have to do what's reasonable. And from what I've heard, it's a pretty low bar. And yeah, I don't know. It stuck with me for the whole week. This idea of the death penalty, and the fact that the defence has to prepare everything. It's not reasonable to expect a defence team to get all that stuff prepared in the era of terabytes and petabytes and exabytes and what is it? Zegabytes? All these bytes, all of these amounts of information that are going to come after a terabyte, they're coming, right? It's just going to be more and more information that they have to pass through. So I don't find that reasonable at all. It's just, to me, it's a no-brainer. But I guess the justice system is trying to weigh up the rights of victims' families as well. So that was just something that stuck with me. I've never really had an opinion about the death penalty, to be honest. Like I said, I can rationalise it, but philosophically, we should be moving away from it. We should be moving away from state-sanctioned homicide. So I'm pretty sure that's all I wanted to say about that. Hopefully now that I've let it out, it'll leave my mind. This scorched earth strategy, it stuck with me so much that I ended up making spaghetti all'assassina, which is literally a scorched pasta dish. It's a peasant dish where you basically burn your pasta. That's how much it was in my noggin. But anyway, I think that's all I have to say about that. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I hope I didn't come across as being too, judgy. I would never, ever cast judgment on my American cousins, No way. You guys are great. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.